Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in News Hour. A year after Hasina's fall, Bangladesh faces crisis under Yunus. Global reports warn of mob lynchings, media suppression and economic strain. Philippine President Marcos Jr. begins a landmark state visit to India. The visit coincides with 75th anniversary of India-Philippines diplomatic relations. Global outrage over Hamas hostage video spurs demands for humanitarian access. Several leaders condemn cruelty, urge immediate release. UNSC to discuss hostage situation on Tuesday. European stocks rebound after Friday's slump. Swiss shares hit three-month low amid US tariffs. Global leaders urge for caution amid a search for new markets. India's clinching thrilling win, a 6-run win at the Oval to level the first Anderson-Tendulkar series 2-2. US President Trump's latest wave of tariffs has triggered widespread economic unrest across continents, from European capitals to Asian financial hubs. Markets are in a flux, and governments are racing to shield their economies from the fallout. Brazil, South Africa and Canada are pursuing diplomatic avenues to diffuse tensions, while trade negotiations with China and India hang in the balance. Mohammed Absarul Hassan unpacks the far-reaching consequences of the Trump administration's aggressive trade stance.
US President Donald Trump's aggressive tariff policies continue to rattle global markets. From Europe to Asia, stock indices have been witnessing choppy sessions and supply chains are reeling under pressure. The White House's decision to impose sweeping tariffs has deepened concerns over global trade stability. After 3 straight sessions of losses, European markets managed a slight recovery on Monday. However, Swiss stocks dropped to their lowest level in over 3 months, reacting to the steep 39% tariff imposed by the US on imports from Switzerland.
The
DAX started this trading week on a positive note, but this is due to the fact that we saw significant declines last week and there is a small recovery effect this morning, if you will. It has taken a short break from this trend, which tends to be characterized by nervousness. The issue of tariffs is driving the stock markets and there seems to be no let-up in sight. Uncertainty is usually a bad advisor.
In South America, Brazil is trading carefully. President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva acknowledged the limits of confrontation with Washington, emphasizing the need for diplomatic restraint amid unfolding tariff tensions.
For example, in this fight we are having now with the United States tariff, I have a limit to my fight with the American government. I cannot say everything that I think I should say. I have to say what is possible to say.
South Africa has moved quickly to protect its domestic industries from the impact of a 30% tariff slapped on the exports by Washington. The government has announced financial aid packages and exemptions from certain local regulations to cushion the blow.
The US is South Africa's third biggest trading partner, with the European Union and China being the first and second largest trading partners. The US accounts for 7.5% of our global exports. Thus, we will continue to engage the US with a view to conclude a deal that advances the interests of both countries. South Africa seeks to conclude deals that promote value addition and industrialization, rather than extractive relations that deprive the country of the ability to beneficiate our mineral wealth by mimicking extractive colonial era trade relations.
North of the border, Canada has also come under the tariff scanner, facing a 35% duty on its exports to the US. Prime Minister Mark Carney has indicated that discussions with President Trump are expected soon, and he remains optimistic.
Canada is strong. We can give ourselves far more than anyone can take away. We're building this great country. I just met with the Premier, building BC, building Canada, building in a Canadian way, building sustainably, building together, building positively, and that's what we're going to do. And yes, we will come to something with the Americans, something constructive with the Americans.
Across Asia, countries like China and India are also treading cautiously in the wake of the US trade policies. While neither has reached a deal with Washington yet, both are deeply engaged in negotiations, seeking to de escalate tensions and safeguard their economic interests. With Mohammad Absarul Hassan, Amit Mukherjee for DD India.
And world leaders and aid groups have condemned Hamas for releasing videos of two visibly emaciated hostages, intensifying outrage in Israel and increasing pressure on its government to secure their release. Now, Hamas claims that it will cooperate with the Red Cross efforts to deliver food and medicine if humanitarian corridors into Gaza are opened. The UN Security Council is set to address the crisis following Israel's request for an emergency meeting. DD India's Dheeraj Das reports.
Western leaders have expressed outrage over recently released videos by Hamas showing two Israeli hostages, Rom Breslevsky and aviator David in Gaza, appearing emaciated and distressed. Amidst the distressing videos, global leaders are now mounting pressure on both Hamas and Israel to allow urgent humanitarian access. French President Emmanuel Macron called the videos a reflection of Hamas's abject cruelty and stressed that France continues to fight for their release, a ceasefire, and increased humanitarian access. Voicing similar concerns, EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said the images are appalling and expose the barbarity of Hamas, calling for the release of all hostages immediately and unconditionally. UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy said images of hostages being paraded for propaganda are sickening and they must be released unconditionally. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said he was appalled and reiterated that the release of all hostages must precede any ceasefire agreement. Amid the widespread outrage, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with the two hostage families, expressing profound shock and telling them that efforts to return all the hostages will continue constantly and relentlessly. He spoke to the head of the Red Cross in the region, requesting his immediate involvement in providing food and medical care to hostages. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar called for the international community to put the focus on the hostage situation.
The world witnessed their terrible condition, starved, tortured. Eviatar was forced to dig his own grave. The world saw the thick arm of the well-fed terrorist next to the starved and tortured Eviatar. The international community must make it not worthwhile for the terrorists. The world must put an end to the phenomena of kidnapping civilians. It must be front and center on world stage.
Meanwhile, Hamas said it was willing to coordinate with the Red Cross to deliver aid to hostages it holds in Gaza if Israel meets certain conditions, including permanently opening humanitarian corridors and halting airstrikes during the distribution of aid. As the world watches in despair, dozens of trucks carrying aid bound for Gaza moved from Egypt on Monday. Large crowds of Palestinians were seen on Monday carrying aid supplies received from the US-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in central Gaza Strip. During the past week, over 23,000 tons of humanitarian aid in 1,200 trucks had entered Gaza, but that hundreds of the trucks had yet to be driven to aid distribution hubs by UN and other organizations. Meanwhile, Belgium's Air Force dropped the first in a series of aid packages into Gaza on Sunday in cooperation with Jordan. 16 pallets weighing a total of 15 tons were dropped into the territory, packed with food including pasta, rice, canned products, and powdered milk. As the situation remains fragile, the United Nations Security Council will hold a special session on Tuesday morning to discuss the 50 hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza, following a request by Foreign Minister Gideon Saar. Meanwhile, the hostage crisis in Gaza has caught the global attentions as recent push by several countries to recognize a state of Palestine gains momentum. The US based Axios agency has reported on Monday that more than a dozen House Democrats have signed a letter pressing the Trump administration to recognize a Palestinian state, with at least one lawmaker planning to introduce a pro statehood resolution. Dheeraj Das's report for DD India.
Well, a year after student-led protests toppled Sheikh Hasina's government, hopes for peace and stability in Bangladesh remain elusive. Instead, in fact, the country is seeing a surge in human rights abuses, communal violence and attacks on minorities and journalists. Hasina now faces a trial for crimes against humanity in absentia, while she urges Awami League members to persist in their fight for justice and religious harmony. DD India's Raghav Kumar Jha explores the deepening crisis in this special report.
As the world witnesses the first anniversary of the fall of Bangladesh's longest-serving Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who was ousted on August 5 last year following weeks of student-led protest, normalcy and peace are yet to return to the nation. Amid social unrest and political chaos, Bangladesh buzzed with hope for a fresh start under the leadership of Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus a year ago. But the policies of the Yunus government proved to be a nightmare for the people of Bangladesh. Human rights violations, communal riots, crime against minorities, and attacks against media persons have increased manifold in the past 1 year. Findings of a report by Canada-based Global Centre for Democratic Governance reveal that the political transition following the August 2024 uprising, which forced Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina from her office after 15 years in power, has seen a disturbing escalation in mob violence in Bangladesh. From August 2024 through July 2025, at least 637 people, including 41 police officers, were lynched in acts of vigilante justice, marking one of the deadliest waves of extrajudicial killings in the country's recent history. By contrast, 51 lynching deaths were recorded in all of 2023 under the previous administration. Mob lynching deaths increased 12 times compared to 2023. The situation of media also continues to deteriorate under Dr. Yunus. The Rights and Risks Analysis Group released its report on the occasion of 1 year of the fall of the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. It is titled Bangladesh, Media Freedom Murdered by Dr. Muhammad Yunus. The report says that press freedom in Bangladesh has sharply deteriorated further, and the attacks on the journalists under Chief Advisor Dr. Muhammad Yunus from August 2024 to July 2025 increased by about 230% in comparison to attacks under former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina from August 2023 to July 2024. Elaborating the numbers, the report says that 878 journalists were attacked during 1 year of Yunus's interim government, whereas the number of attacks on journalists between August 2023 to July 2024 was 383. The report further says that 195 criminal cases were filed against journalists under Dr. Yunus during 2024-2025, which is an increase by 558% in comparison to 35 cases filed against journalists during 2023-2024. Meanwhile, Bangladesh's former Premier Sheikh Hasina released a statement calling it an open letter to the honest, hardworking and patriotic people of Bangladesh. In her statement, Sheikh Hasina said that she has never resigned and urged members of her Awami League to continue their struggle for justice, peace and religious harmony. The statement issued on Hasina's behalf from London comes when Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal has begun her trial in absentia for alleged crimes against humanity related to the suppression of student-led protests that led to the ouster of her regime. Raghav Kumar Jha's report for DD India.
And still to come here on DD India Newshour. More than 3,200 Boeing fighter jet workers are on strike in the United States. From storms to scorching heat waves, various regions globally are grappling with severe weather events. And the Kremlin says that Putin may meet the US envoy Steve Witkoff this week.
The US launched a bombing campaign against Iran. The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
Exactly what to save your.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Mark Lynn. Our next story. The Russia-Ukraine conflict continues to intensify with escalating drone strikes, civilian casualties and diplomatic moves involving the United States and Russia. The US President Donald Trump's envoy Witkoff is expected to visit Russia on Wednesday. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay brings us more.
A Ukrainian drone attack sparked fires at an oil depot in Sochi, southern Russia on Sunday, setting 2 oil tanks ablaze. Authorities confirmed the fires were later extinguished. Russia's defense ministry reported that its air defense systems intercepted 93 Ukrainian drones overnight, including 60 over the Black Sea and 1 over the city of Krasnodar. Meanwhile, a Russian attack killed 3 civilians in the Zaporizhia region on the southeastern Ukraine on Sunday. Moscow's forces are reportedly continuing their slow but steady westward push along the 1,000-kilometer front line. On the diplomatic front, US President Donald Trump revealed that Special Envoy Steve Witkoff may travel to Russia this week, possibly on Wednesday or Thursday, in an attempt to broker a ceasefire. Trump issued a stern warning that sanctions would be imposed if Moscow doesn't agree to a ceasefire before Friday.
Yeah, get a deal where people stop getting killed. They had a number that just came out that a tremendous number of Russian soldiers are being killed. And likewise, Ukraine, a lower number, but still thousands and thousands of people. And now we're adding towns where they're being hit by missiles. So it's a lot of people being killed in that ridiculous war. And, you know, we stopped a lot of countries from war, India and Pakistan. We stopped a lot of countries. And we're going to get that one stopped, too. Somehow we're going to get that one stopped. That's a really horrible.
The Kremlin confirmed on Monday that Russian President Vladimir Putin may meet with US envoy Steve Witkoff later this week, signaling a possible opening for dialogue. The Kremlin also responded for the first time to recent nuclear-related remarks by Donald Trump. A spokesperson urged caution, stating that everyone should be careful about nuclear rhetoric after Trump claimed he had ordered the repositioning of US nuclear submarines. On Monday, Russian President Vladimir Putin met Denis Pushilin, the Moscow-appointed leader of Russian-controlled Donetsk, at the Kremlin. The meeting highlights ongoing efforts by Moscow to strengthen its grip on the occupied territories. With both military operations and diplomatic efforts intensifying, the coming days could prove pivotal in shaping the trajectory of the conflict. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
Well, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday that Ukrainian troops were fighting a variety of foreign mercenaries in the northeastern Ukraine, and he vowed a response. Zelensky visited the frontline areas in Kharkiv region and spoke with commanders about the frontline situation. He wrote on X, and I quote, "We spoke with commanders about the frontline situation, the defense of Vovchansk and the dynamics of the battles," unquote. Zelensky has previously accused Moscow of recruiting Chinese fighters for its war effort against Ukraine, charges that Beijing has denied, while North Korea has also provided thousands of its own troops. The talks between Thailand and Cambodia defense officials started on Monday in Malaysia. The talks came ahead of a key ministerial meeting on Thursday as a fragile truce continues to hold, a week after the two sides had agreed to a ceasefire. The Malaysian Armed Forces Chief, General Mohammed Nizam Jafar, said both parties are now in the final stages of discussion over a proposed terms of reference and the formation of an interim defense attaché monitoring force, which would precede the establishment of a formal ASEAN monitoring team.
We proposed two additional matters. The first, which was agreed upon earlier in Kuala Lumpur, is the establishment of an interim defense attaché monitoring force. Only after that will we proceed with the formation of the ASEAN monitoring force. I have conveyed my view on this to both Chief of Defense Forces and the relevant authorities. They have agreed, and we have proposed the terms of reference which have been submitted to the both countries, Thailand and Cambodia.
Well, Iran's top security body has approved the creation of a new defense council more than a month after a ceasefire ended a 12-day war with Israel. The new body, which will be chaired by the president and include top military commanders, among other senior officials and ministers, will be tasked with reviewing defense strategies and enhancing the capabilities of Iran's armed forces. In the U.S., more than 3,200 Boeing fighter jet workers in the St. Louis and Illinois regions, they went on strike on Monday. This is after rejecting a second contract offer. According to the company, the rejected 4-year contract would have raised the average wage by roughly 40%, including a 20% general wage increase and a $5,000 ratification bonus. It also included increasing periodic raises, more vacation time and sick leave. Boeing Defense said that it was ready for a work stoppage and that it will implement a contingency plan that uses non-labor workers. Delegations will begin meetings in Geneva on Tuesday to resume negotiations on a global treaty to curb plastic pollution. The talks followed the inconclusive Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, that's the INC 5 summit in South Korea last year, which ended without agreement on key issues like production caps, also chemical management and funding support for developing nations. The UN Environmental Program Chief, Inga Anderson, stressed the urgency of reaching a meaningful deal, warning of the catastrophic impact of plastic pollution, especially on marine ecosystems.
I want an effective treaty. I want a treaty that ends plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. That's why we're here. We're not here to not get something or to get something that's meaningless. But the reality is also, and this is where, 40 years in this business, the impacts are here and now. And we have to stop this from spiraling out of control.
And for more on this, we turn to Deutsche Welle's Cassandra Sundt, who's joining us from Berlin. Cassandra, what are the stakes here?
Well, thanks for having me. And I should say that the stakes are incredibly high for all sides. And let's not forget that the global plastics industry is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, and that global plastic consumption is set to triple by 2060, at least according to OECD projections on the current situation. So the UN is even projecting that in the next 15 years, the amount of plastic waste in soils and waterways is expected to surge by 50%. Meanwhile, less than 10% of plastic is actually recycled. So take that in combination, this increasing plastic production and more plastic waste. And now keep in mind as well that plastics, when they break down, think of like a plastic bottle on a roadway that gets repeatedly stepped on or run over, that then these teeny tiny bits of plastics are breaking off and finding their way into literally every part of the human body, from being absorbed by the skin to found inside the brain to even breast milk.
Okay, Cassandra, then you mentioned the value of plastics industry globally. It's hundreds of billions of dollars is what you said. What is the industry saying about these talks?
Well, these talks are a bit tricky because the deal has to be reached through consensus. And that means that one country can be a major blocker to any momentum. And the negotiations this week are actually in the fifth round. And we have seen one country be a real impediment to progress so far, and that's Saudi Arabia. The kingdom is the world's second largest oil producer, and via its oil company, Saudi Aramco, it owns another company called SABIC, which is one of the world's largest producers of plastics. And at the last round of talks in December, Saudi Arabia was described by some media outlets as being a, quote, ringleader of a small group of oil-rich countries that blocked plastic production caps at that time. And those talks, which took place in Busan, South Korea, also saw a record number of corporate lobbyists in attendance. Those reps are nothing new at these talks, and at least a few of them have been known to use aggressive tactics to get their points across. One professor in attendance at a previous meeting reported harassment and intimidation from a plastic packaging representative. He was later forced to apologize, but allowed to come to the following meeting.
Thanks very much, Cassandra. And Storm Flores batters the UK and Ireland while Japan breaks 17 heat records. This report gets us the latest on the weather update from across the world.
From storms to heat waves, various regions globally are grappling with severe weather events. Weather alerts came into effect in parts of the UK and Ireland as Storm Flores brought strong winds and rainfall. Authorities have advised people to stay cautious as visibility remains low and there's a risk of flooding. While UK reels under the impact of Storm Flores, Spain and Portugal have been bracing for a heat wave, with Lisbon warning of a very high risk of wildfires. Temperatures are expected to soar above 42 degrees. This marks the second major heat wave of the season, coming just weeks after both countries recorded their hottest June. In Japan, 17 heat records were broken on Monday after the country sweltered through its hottest ever June and July. India's weather department issued orange alert for multiple states due to heavy rainfall forecast. Rain alert is in place for Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim and Kerala. In the hill state of Uttarakhand, traffic has been affected by rain-triggered landslides. The Chinese capital of Beijing has warned of a new round of heavy rainfall a week after the city witnessed floods which claimed dozens of lives. In Taiwan, 4 people were killed and nearly 6,000 evacuated after the island recorded more than a year's rainfall over the past week. Bureau Report, DD India.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour, we'll get your expert opinion on the Bangladesh situation. Dr. S. Jaishankar says that music is a bridge as well as an expression of heritage at the BIMSTEC Music Festival.
to Jaipur.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. Global outrage over Hamas's hostage videos spurs demands for humanitarian access. Several leaders condemn the cruelty, urge immediate release. UNSC to discuss hostage situation on Tuesday. European stocks rebound after Friday's slump. Swiss shares hit 3-month low amid US tariffs. Global leaders urge for caution amid search for new markets. A year after Hasina's fall, Bangladesh faces crises under Yunus. Global reports warn of mob lynchings, media suppression, and economic strain. And Ambassador Veena Sikri, former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh, joins us now, and we'll discuss the situation in Bangladesh with her. Ma'am, thanks for being with us. With over 637 mob lynchings, reported in the past year, these also are those targeting minorities and political opponents. So has vigilante justice been normalized in Bangladesh?
Absolutely. This year has been extremely difficult for the people of Bangladesh, and I think it is them that we have to focus on. And for India, of course, we've always seen our relationship with Bangladesh as a very people-centric relationship. And indeed, the people of Bangladesh have suffered enormously in the 1 year. The mob lynching, the mobocracy that you spoke about just now, this has indeed become the norm. And it was so from the very first day. On the 5th of August 2024, exactly a year ago, even as Sheikh Hasina's plane was leaving Dhaka, we saw that the mob lynchings began. Their first targets were the minorities, which is the Hindu, Buddhist, and Christian minorities, and also the Muslim minorities, the Sufis and the Ahmadiyyas. And the second target was anything that had to do with the Bangladesh Liberation War. So the father of the nation, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, his statues, his home, any institution named after him, Awami Leaguers, these were all tremendous sources of attack. And as if this was not enough, immediately after Muhammad Yunus was sworn in as chief advisor on the 8th of August 2024, we saw that the mobs, they started going and forcing individuals to resign. For example, They surrounded the Chief Justice of Bangladesh and forced him to resign. They surrounded the governor of the Bank of Bangladesh and forced him to resign. They would surround vice chancellors of universities and force them to resign. They even started surrounding professors, Hindu professors, other professors, forcing them to resign. Teachers in schools.
Indeed. So clearly, ma'am, you've given us lots of examples, but there has been a 230% rise in attacks on journalists as well. And, the use of other means to silence the voice of the journalists. So
Yes.
how would you assess, the approach to press freedom also?
Absolutely. The press freedom was, in fact, I was coming to that, it was the third major target after the first two, the minorities and the Awami Leaguers. And in fact, how they have controlled the media is actually very, very it's awful. It's really cannot even be described. And the sad part is that nobody in the world is talking about it. These reporters without borders, all the people, they're all keeping quiet. It's kind of an omerta, a kind of a vow of silence. And because of this, the Bangladesh chief advisor and his regime, it is not even a legitimate regime, but they've been able to keep away the reality from the rest of the world. Now, what they did with the media was that in the first place, they arrested a lot of media people and put them in jail, charging many of them with murder. Secondly, a number of journalists were dismissed and are really now facing a very difficult situation. And then media houses were just taken over. The boards were
Right.
taken over, the editors were replaced. And it really is a very difficult situation because even in the Bangladesh media and certainly in the international media, these issues are just not being raised.
Absolutely.
And there is a great deal of unhappiness because of this. And I would say that the people are, in fact, very, very unhappy with the situation today.
Right.
Even the other part is the economic distress.
Right, ma'am. If we talk about the economic distress, I mean, there has been a modest recovery in exports, remittances too, but the economy is sluggish. What's most needed to restore stability and also public confidence?
Well, just yesterday or day before, the Bank of Bangladesh, the central bank, they actually gave out a statement listing the macroeconomic challenges still that continue to face Bangladesh. And all these incidents were mentioned: the hyperinflation, the stagnation of private investment. There's no private investment coming in. There's unemployment. And it's really a very difficult economy because we know that under Sheikh Hasina for 15 years, the economy was growing very steadily and rapidly, more than 6% growth of the economy every year. So in fact, over these 15 years, Bangladesh has even come out of its least developed country status and was moving into a regular low and middle income country status. But with this one step, with the regime change operation brought into force in August last year, we've seen that that was combined with a fact that they wanted to destroy the relationship with India, which, as you know, was a very vibrant and robust economic relation. So they wanted to destroy the supply chains. Like say, for example, India was exporting cotton yarn or man-made yarn or textile machinery or pharmaceutical ingredients to Bangladesh. If you cut the supply chain, then at the other end in Bangladesh, all the factories had to shut down because there was supply coming in.
Absolutely.
Unemployment was there. And because of this, they lost a lot of supply orders. They lost a lot of, their exports plunged. And the rate of growth halved, to 3% and less.
Right,
Even the
absolutely.
ECB is now saying even this year, despite a slight recovery, it will only be about 3.9% per annum. So, it's really been a very difficult situation, and people just don't know how to handle this hyperinflation because the commodities are just not there. And they want to destroy the regular supply chain that had built up, the regular contractual.
Right. So if we look at possible solutions, and you've talked about the rise in communal violence as well, does one expect international human rights bodies to play some role in addressing these abuses? Is it possible?
Well, I certainly hope so, because some of the issues, for example, last week in Gopalganj in Bangladesh, which is the hometown of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and where his mausoleum is situated, last week there was a terrible incident in Gopalganj where the NCP, which is a newly formed party, was trying to have a rally there, and the word had gone out that they would try to desecrate the mausoleum of Sheikh Mujib. So the people came out just spontaneously to they were also Awami League supporters, but then they were shot at. The army, in order to protect the NCP, shot at them. So now I think in this situation, the only hope of, I would say, the people of Bangladesh and the world is that there should be free, fair and inclusive elections organized in Bangladesh as soon as possible with the participation of all parties.
So how is that going to take place, ma'am? Because, critics have accused the Yunus administration of focusing on purging his opposition rather than restoring the rule of law. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah. That is very true, but the pressure is building up in a very big way. Even the opposition parties like the BNP, Awami League, of course, the activities have been banned. But in any election, you cannot prevent the Awami League, a registered political party, from taking part. But the BNP is pressing very hard for early elections, even by December of this year. In the next 5 to 6 months. And a lot of the other parties and individuals and groups, they all want early elections. There's only one group, the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Islamist parties. As you know, they are actually running the show in Bangladesh. They control all the levers of power. They tell Muhammad Yunus what he should do and what he should not do. Other than the Jamaat-e-Islami, who, in order to delay the elections, has said, let's have reforms, and they've sort of instituted a process of reforms until the reforms take place.
Yes.
So they say they don't want elections. But the pressure of the entire people of Bangladesh are in favor of early elections.
Absolutely.
And I think
So the pressure is building up. I'm afraid we've run short of time, ma'am. Thank you very much for your sharing your views with us and helping us understand the bigger picture in Bangladesh. Moving on to our next story. In fact, in Bangladesh, the July Declaration will be presented before the nation on August 5. And this declaration will be unveiled at a public gathering at the South Plaza of the Jatiya Sangsad. It's a building in Dhaka. And the chief advisor of the interim government of Bangladesh, Professor Mohammed Yunus, is expected to be present on the occasion. This is what reports are saying in the Bangladesh Sangbad Sangstha, that's the BSS. And the July Declaration is an official declaration of the July mass uprising of 2024 in Bangladesh. A preliminary draft of the charter was released on the 28th of July 2025, following a series of consultations involving 30 political parties. The President of the Philippines, Marcos Jr., arrived in New Delhi today on a 5-day state visit, his first since taking office. India and the Philippines are celebrating the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties, and the visit is aimed at further strengthening the ties. President Marcos met with India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who expressed confidence that the upcoming talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi would significantly deepen bilateral ties. President Marcos is scheduled to hold discussions with Prime Minister Modi on Tuesday and also meet President Draupadi Murmu during his visit. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar attended the first edition of the BIMSTEC Traditional Music Festival, Saptasur, in New Delhi. So this festival, it witnessed the joint presentation by musicians from the BIMSTEC countries. BIMSTEC, which stands for Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, is a regional grouping of 7 countries, which are Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka and Thailand. Jaishankar said that music is a medium to connect ourselves with others.
We live in complicated and uncertain times. Our collective desire is to see a fair and representative global order, not one dominated by a few. That quest is often articulated as political or economic rebalancing. But I want to say this to you: obtaining respect and ensuring dignity for societies can also be achieved through cultural prowess, especially through cultural prowess.
And participants of the first edition of the BIMSTEC Traditional Music Festival, they shared their thoughts with DD India. Let's listen.
So, my name is Sharat Chand Srivastav. I am a violinist, composer, and I have curated the grand finale, composed the grand finale for tonight's BIMSTEC Orchestra. And we are Strings of the World, collaborating with all these BIMSTEC nations.
There's no language for music. So whatever inside we are presenting to the crowd for what actually we are feeling. So with the other nations also, they are like trying the same thing. Yeah.
It's a great experience, first of all, because not only I'm getting to play my own music, but then I'm also learning and experiencing music from other countries as well. Like, for example, in this piece, I'm playing, in this orchestra, I'm playing with, I think, 2 other countries as well. So playing their traditional music, it's definitely a great thing, because not only in the end we're playing together, but like before that, I'm getting a chance to play with them as well. So it's like really a learning experience for me, like how their culture is, and for them as well to experience our culture.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's popular interactive program with students, Pariksha Pe Charcha, has made history by winning the Guinness World Record for most people registered on a citizen engagement platform in 1 month. The official certificate was presented at a ceremony held in New Delhi on Monday in the presence of top officials, including Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan and Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. The record was set with 3.53 crore registrations during the 8th edition of the event, hosted on the MyGov platform. Started in 2018, Pariksha Pe Charcha is a special event where Prime Minister Modi talks directly with students, teachers and parents. The event aims at productive engagement of experience sharing, ideas to improve meaningful learning and ways to manage exams, anxiety and identify hidden talents. The initiative aims to turn the examination season into a festival of positivity and purposeful learning rather than an event of stress anxiety. India's electric mobility dream is fast turning into a reality. According to a recent report by Niti Aayog, the country's e-mobility sector has witnessed a historic transformation over the past decade. In the latest report on the electronic mobility, the Niti Aayog has made several major recommendations for the future. It was released at the Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi, and this report states that India's EV sector, it represents a massive $200 billion market, unlocking vast economic potential. And still to come here on DD India Newshour, we'll talk about India's stunning win by 6 runs at the Oval.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Mark Lynn. Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid tributes to the former Jharkhand Chief Minister and founder of the JMM, Shibu Soren, in New Delhi. The Prime Minister hailed his passion for empowering tribal communities.
The demise of Jharkhand Mukti Morcha founder and former Chief Minister Shibu Soren marks the end of an era. In this moment of deep grief, Prime Minister Narendra Modi personally visited Delhi's Sir Gangaram Hospital to offer condolences, comforting his son, the current Chief Minister, Hemant Soren, like a guardian. In an emotional moment, Prime Minister laid a floral tribute on the mortal remains and stood in solidarity with the bereaved family. PM Modi extended his support not just as a leader, but as a member of the family. In the Prime Minister's own words, Shibu Soren was a grassroots leader who rose through the ranks of public life with unwavering dedication to the public. He was particularly passionate about empowering tribal communities, the poor and downtrodden. With his passing, the world has lost a powerful voice of the marginalized.
You're watching DD India Newshour. Let's get you the sports news now. And India scripted a remarkable comeback to pull a famous 6-run victory at the Oval, denying England a series win, what turned out to be a dramatic end to a thrilling test series. Here's all the action.
Curtains were drawn in a dramatic fashion to the Anderson Tendulkar Trophy in the 5th and final test match at the Oval. India clinched their narrowest win in test cricket, one that would be remembered for ages. Mohammad Siraj inspired India to a famous 6-run win in what turned out to be a fitting end to the test series. Along with Prasidh Krishna, Siraj snatched victory for India from the jaws of defeat. India set England 374 runs to win and draw the series. In reply, England were on a bit of a pickle at 106 for 3. However, Harry Brook and Joe Root launched the counter-attack to push India on the back foot. But late on day 4, as the condition turned conducive to bowling, India managed to pick 3 wickets, and England, 301 for 3 at one stage, lost their 7 wickets for 66 runs. A collapse prompted by Brooks reckless dismissal after he had made a superb century. India suddenly had a chink of hope and they took full advantage, removing Jacob Battle and Joe Root before bad light and rain ended the fourth day early. Then turned out Siraj, India's hero, dismissing Jamie Smith and Jamie Overton before bowling Gus Atkinson to complete a 5-wicket haul. After Prasidh Krishna had bowled Josh Tongue for naught, Chris Wokes walked out to bat wearing a sling to protect his dislocated shoulder with 17 runs still needed. Atkinson hit Siraj for 6 to give England brief hope and cleverly protected Wokes from the strike. But Siraj produced another brilliant Yorker to earn India their narrowest ever win. India took the last 4 wickets in under an hour to bowl out England for 367. England still needed 35 runs to complete their second highest test run chase and by far the largest for any team on this venue. The Oval was full of the final act of series that fluctuated wildly over 7 weeks and under grey skies in an atmosphere of unremitting tension as one of the most dramatic endings in a test match duly played out. Sports Desk, DD India.
And Ajay Mehra, former cricketer and cricket commentator, now joins us with more on this. Ajay, thanks for being with us. Now, you know, this was a new team. I mean, a post Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma team. So what does it say for India's future?
I think the field is very bright, Mark. I think the way they played, you know, the way they gelled as the unit. I think this is a fair result. You know, 2-2, led by a very good captain, probably the captain of the future, got a captain for a long time. Shubman Gill, himself the highest run getter in the series. And we have that man, Mohammad Siraj, you know, job he's done. Phenomenal. I think just the way he's bowled this morning, well, and throughout the series, you know, he's been absolutely brilliant. Never see in a 5-test series, Mark, I think it was a commendable performance by the entire unit. I just feel this is the way to go forward. The best the Indian side was, of course, you know, Rishabh, he was injured. Jasprit Bumrah taking a break from this test match. But the bench should have, you know, Krishna with Mohammad Siraj, the way Krishna bowled yesterday evening. I think that was the key. Because once he broke Joe Root were playing, it was looking like they will take him away from India. But wicket of Harry Brook, Joe Root, you know, India pulled back. And I tell you what, you know, the test hit mark is a lot.
Right.
With this win, you can say, you know, there are so many people at the Oval, so many millions on TV as well. And this was some win for India.
Indeed, and if we look at the men of the series, Shubman Gill and Harry Brook, we know that, you know, they've both taken the game by storm with their batting skills. Is this a new rivalry that we are looking at in the future, you know, like Tendulkar versus Ponting or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, these are youngsters and these are players to look for the future. You know, probably that era, we'll have Joe Root play, you know, Virat is retired, but we have some players in the past as well. And I think, you know, we'll move on from, you know, for future. You have Harry Brook, he's a tremendous talent as well, tremendous potential, a great average that he possesses, and one Shubman Gill, you know, special talent. I thought, Mark, just the way he capped the series, you know, first series inning, a young guy, you know, people saying probably it's not going to do well, but just the way they are. And, you know, as Shubman Gill rightly said, you know, never give up. This is exactly what he mentioned in the presentation. This was again his mind. Never give up to the end. And I think any youngsters watching, any youngsters, you know, taking the game as well forward, I think this is the luck. Never give up. And that's exactly what India has done here.
Ajay, so, I mean, well, you know, despite the good performance, India has struggled with the ball in the fourth innings. We know that. I mean, we couldn't chase, we couldn't protect a total of 371 earlier. So do Indian bowlers lack the killer instinct to defend reasonably large targets? Almost lost this game as well.
Mark, I thought, you know, probably there was a fake there because, you know, you should have gone with 4 seamers. You know, understand, you know, it's got horses for courses. You got to understand the conditions here. You know, because yesterday, you know, the 3 seamers were tired. You know, it's not the bowl at 20-22 overs. I think Mohammad Siraj Pro Series has done a spectacular job. You got to understand people like Rajdeep, Prasidh, they're at the test match level. They haven't played up to test match cricket. So it's not easy. Probably this was a series where even England went with 4 seamers. Because Chris Wokes, he got injured. That's a different story altogether. But, you know, they still have 3 seamers in operation. So, you know, I think it was a track much suited to the seam rather than the rest. You see hardly, you know, Jadeja, Andrew Sundar, they bowled 2 overs. They hardly bowled any overs. So I think, probably I think that's an area where India improved. But overall, I think, again, it is a win. In the end, I think everything, icing the cake, just the way it played, I think a tremendous series. They started off with a win up for England, chasing a score. But I thought this surface was challenging for batters, and just the way Mark India batted in second innings, I think that was outstanding. Akash, the night watchman, come in place of Shubman ahead of him. Jaiswal got that 100 as well. Jadeja, Washington Sundar. So it was a key performance, and that really worked well for the Indian side.
Ajay, also, when we were young, you and I are, from the same school. But, going back in time, back in those days, Test series used to go to about 6 Test matches each in those days, and they didn't have much other form of cricket. One-day cricket came on a little later and picked up after India won the World Cup in 1983. But the point is that there's so much other cricket. Would you think that Test cricket should be reduced in terms of the number of Test matches in a series? Because this was a long Test series.
I feel against two quality sides. India, Australia playing, India, England playing, India, South Africa. I think it should be 5-match series because that's entertaining. You're right. So many leagues now, T20 cricket. People enjoy that. Fine. Going in different formats as well. T10 has come in now. So many leagues are taking place. But I feel, Test match cricket is alive. There's a big place for Test cricket. And when two good teams up against each other, you see Ashes as well. You see India, Australia, India in that rivalry is always so interesting, so intriguing. Well, so I feel Test match should be on. Yes, it's right. You've got to have the endurance. You've got to have the strength. The bowler or batter. It takes a lot of as well, as Kian mentioned. After the series, they from every player. But I think it's so enjoyable. I think, I really love this Test match series. I was glued. I was really loving it. Being a former cricketer, you can't ask more, Mark.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ajay Mehra, former cricketer and cricket commentator. Thanks for joining us. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, you can get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.